Hello and happy 4th of July, everybody. And as you can see right here, what I'm going to tackle today is I am going to once again talk about Def Leppard. That's right, British hard rock, glam rock, pop rock, new wave of British heavy metal artists. And I've discussed them a couple times on this channel before. I reviewed 2 of their albums. But this time, I'm going to kind of take everything and put it together, and I'm going to look at every single individual album they have done, and I am going to rank them from my personal least favorite to my personal favorite. Now, this may be a controversial decision, but I decided to go ahead and include the covers album called Yeah, released in 2006. And I'm going to include the compilation of outtakes called Retroactive, released in 1993. So was I supposed to do that? I don't know, but it's what I did. Now, another kind of disclaimer before we move on. This is purely my subjective opinion. This is purely what I think. So if you disagree with me, then that's perfectly fine. If you want to tell me why I'm wrong or why I'm right in the comments section, that's fine. Just please keep it civil. So anyways, we have 13 total albums to cover today, so I'm not going to waste any more time. And my 13th pick, last place, is actually probably not much of a surprise to anyone, but I'm going to go with X, or 10 as I think we're supposed to call it. Yeah, this was released in 2002, and at least for me, it was the low point of Def Leppard. So let's just see what we have here. This right here is the track list, and it starts off with Now, which is not good. It's got some kind of weird sound effects at the very beginning, and I never really quite gravitated much to that. But once you get past that, it's not a good song. It is way too poppy. Unbelievable is the second track. It is another pop song. You're So Beautiful, the third song. It's, again, another pop song, but that's at least catchy. That's something about Def Leppard is they can write some bad songs, but oftentimes they're at least catchy, and I at least got to give them credit for that, okay? Long, Long Way to Go is a ballad, and actually, is that a cover? It might be. I really don't care too much, but it's pretty bland and pretty forgettable. 4-letter Word, which is track number 6. It starts off decently, but it does have some pretty weak songwriting. Torn to Shreds is track number 7. It is a little bit more upbeat, and it starts off decently, but it does kind of return to some very soft segments. And again, it is a pop song, okay? Love Don't Lie is bland and forgettable. Gravity, and Def Leppard did this a couple of times, which I'll talk about later on other albums, but in a way, I may be the only person who says that, but it almost sounds like it has a rap beat in some parts. No thank you. Cry is track number 10. It's heavy in some parts, but still ultimately forgettable. And then we have Let Me Be the One is another bland, forgettable ballad. And that's really what I gotta say about this album. It is bland and forgettable, not the best songwriting, and for that, I am ranking this one 13th and last place. So where do we go from here? Now we're in 12th place, and I am going to go to the year 1999, and I'm going to go with Euphoria. Yeah, I'll talk about this later, but the album they did before this one was a little bit more experimental. They kind of tried to deviate from the classic pop glam rock sound that they became very famous for. And this was really the album where they tried to really go back to what made them famous. Not to their roots, mind you, okay? They are very far removed from their roots. But they went back to the sound that made them famous back in the late 80s. Unfortunately. So, yeah, here's the track list right here. Demolition Man, it actually starts out kind of promising. It actually starts out kind of heavy, or what this album may consider to be heavy, but keep in mind, at its roots, it is still a pop glam song, okay? Promises is pure glam. I actually did hear them play this one time in concert. It was back in the 2010s, I want to say. And I've seen these guys like 7 or 8 times by now. But basically by this point, I'll only go see them if they're with somebody else that I also want to see. But they did play Promises, and I sat down during it. Back in Your Face is track number 3. It's kind of mid-tempo, but still very much a glam rock song. Goodbye is a very lame ballad. No thank you. All Night. It actually kind of sounds sleazy, kind of, sort of, I guess you could say. It's got kind of a sleazy atmosphere behind it. Kind of catchy, actually. I don't mind it, but still very much a pop song. But then we have 21st Century La La Girl. That is track number 8. This one is kind of catchy as well. I actually don't mind this one too much. Has a very interesting rhythm, but once again, still a glam rock song, very much so. To Be Alive is another forgettable glammy ballad, but what may very well be the highlight from this album is Disintegrate, track 10. It's an instrumental. It's kind of fast, actually, almost heavy. It's still got that glammy guitar sound around it, so that's definitely a detriment. But it's really not that bad. It's actually very reminiscent of Switch 625, in my opinion, which I will talk about later. And actually, I've talked about them in the past, so yeah. But unfortunately, it does not really end all that well. Guilty is another glam pop song, very forgettable. And so is Day After Day, but Kings of Oblivion kind of rounds out the album as good as it very well could have been, as good as it possibly could have been given the circumstances, okay? It might actually be a highlight or one of the high points from this album, but still it's stuck at the back end of the album, so it's often forgotten about, and really, it's not good enough to dig back through and listen to again, so yeah. Euphoria, 12th place. So now we're going to go to 11th place, and I'm going to pick one of their more recent albums. I'm going to go with the self-titled album from 2015. Yeah, I did see them when they were touring this album, and they did play a couple of songs from this one, but I really don't think this one's really all that strong. The thing is, the one they did before this one, which is actually like 7 years earlier, sounded much better than this, so I'm kind of upset that they put out one that wasn't so strong. But Let's Go kicks it off. And yes, by this point, we have a song called Let It Go, Gotta Let It Go, Let's Go, and Go. So, yeah. They kind of need to broaden their horizons a bit. This one, it is catchy, I'll say that. It's a bad song, absolutely, but it's at least catchy. And this was one that this was one of the ones I heard them play in concert, and so I do remember it for that reason, but yeah, it's kind of slow, actually. Not really quite what I expected as the leadoff track, but again, more glam, but at the same time, it's kind of catchy once again. Again, like I said, something that Def Leppard is able to pull off that a lot of artists aren't is, again, even when they're bad, they're at least catchy. Dangerous is kind of fast, actually, and it's somewhat well written. Man Enough really reminds me a lot of Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. Now, that's not my favorite Queen song ever, but I don't hate it or anything. And so for that, Man Enough is almost a highlight from this album. We Belong, track 4, is a pop ballad. Sea of Love almost picks things up. It's pretty hard rocking for this album, okay? I'm not saying it's hard rocking, I'm saying it's hard rocking for this album. But still, those glam influences are very apparent, especially in the chorus, okay? All Time High is another one that I wanted to talk about. It's not a bad song. It's a little bit more upbeat, but it's still very much a glam song. Battle of My Own is track number 9, okay? This one's darker, actually. It's got kind of an acoustic feel behind it. I wouldn't quite call it an acoustic song, but the acoustic guitar is very definitely apparent. Not great, but serviceable, I guess. Broke and Broken Hearted is track 10. Another poppy glam song, which I'm not too big of a fan of, but again, it's catchy. I like it. Last Dance is a very disposable acoustic ballad, and Wings of an Angel is track 13. Decent. Hard rockin'. I'll take it, at least. So, yeah, 12th place, Def Leppard, self-titled album. So now we come, sorry, that was 11th place. So now we come to 10th place, and this is going to be their most recent album. It is going to be Diamond Star Halos, and I also saw them on tour for this album, and they were touring with Motley Crue and Poison, and I remember I saw it at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, and I realized right then and there, you do not, in a stadium tour, need to get a seat in the nosebleed. Why? You can't hear. It was quite frustrating. But we start off with Take What You Want. Yes, that is the first track right there. And it's not a bad opener. Again, I think it's catchy. Not a great song, but catchy. So is Kick. Fire It Up had potential, I think. I think the main chorus or the main rhythm is kind of annoying, unfortunately, but it had potential. But this guitar, okay? No, not good, okay? It's a duet, actually, or they have a guest musician, and her name is Alison Krauss. Is that how you say it? I'm not too familiar with her. She sounds like a country singer, and I am really not into country. But, yeah, this song almost sounds country-like. No, thank you. It could have been better, I guess, with stronger songwriting, but it just simply was not there, okay? SOS Emergency, I do not mind. Liquid Dust is way too slow. You Rock Me, or You Roke Me. I think that's supposed to be You Rock Me, just spelled a little bit weird. But that's track number 7. It's kind of deviates from the format a little bit. It has a very interesting arrangement, I think. It's decent, but not great. Goodbye for Good This Time. It's a piano ballad. I am not a fan of this one. Okay, there are way too many ballads on some of these releases. Give Me a Kiss has a very punchy. Give Me a Kiss That Rocks. Has a very punching opener, I guess you could say. It seems kind of powerful, actually, but it kind of fades. And again, still very much a glam song. Angels Can't Help You Now has another trashy ballad. Don't like it. And really, the last couple of tracks on here are very disposable. Unbreakable and From Here to Eternity especially are just by the numbers and don't leave much of an impression. And yeah, not too big of a fan of those. But, you know, there are some highlights on here, or let me back up. There are some songs on here that I don't think are completely terrible, but it's still a pretty forgettable album. So this next one is, I'm going to go back a little bit further. This next one is an album that is definitely bad, but unlike the 4 that I just talked about, I think the songwriting in some places is much stronger. And this is going to be the very first one without original guitarist Steve Clark. And I'm going to go with 1992's Adrenalize. And this was before Vivian Campbell joined the band, so I'm pretty sure this is the very first one, the only one that they recorded as a 4-piece. It was just Joe Elliott, Phil Collen, is that how you say his name? Rick Savage, and Rick Allen, who had one arm at the time. Or it was after he lost his arm. So, yeah, let's see what we have here. Now, some of these songs are still played in concert. It starts off with, yes, you got it. Do you want to get rocked? Yes, let's get rocked. A very, very, very silly song. And I thought it was silly from the very first time I heard it. And one thing that really kind of kills this album is the production. Before, this was right after they had a whole lot of success a couple of years prior to this by adopting a full-fledged glam rock sound, and they just went overboard on this one, and they just exploited to the nth degree everything that people seem to like about their previous album. And Let's Get Rocked is no exception. There is very little distortion or any sense of heaviness on the guitar sound. It's all been replaced with polished, glossy glam sound, and it's really kind of terrible. But again, Let's Get Rocked is a very catchy song. I would almost say the songwriting is not bad, actually. And so for that, it does kind of elevate it. I'll say this, they played it a couple times and I saw them live, and yeah, I had a fun time. I was singing along, yeah, I know the lyrics. I was singing along, banging my fists, dancing around, it was kind of fun. So yeah, Let's Get Rocked sounds much better in the concert than it does on the album, because again, we don't have that polished guitar sound live. It's not bad, not as bad at least. Then we come to Heaven Is, which I would not call a ballad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely a "Oh baby, I love you so much" kind of song, and yeah, I'm not quite sure if I can forgive some of the lyrics, but something about it just grabs me and captivates me. I mean, again, it all comes down to the songwriting and the rhythm, and it's just so incredibly catchy. And for that, I actually do think Heaven Is probably one of the better songs from this album. It's by no means a great song, but I do kind of enjoy it just because it's catchy, and I'll give it that. Make Love Like a Man. It's kind of annoying. Not to be a fan of Tonight either. White Lightning might actually be their longest song they've ever recorded. I think there was one off one of their earlier albums that might be longer than that, but I'm not too sure, but it's pretty disposable. Stand Up, Kick Love into Motion is a ballad. It sucks. Personal Property actually isn't that bad. It's definitely a highlight. Have You Ever Needed Someone So Bad is another ballad. It's trash. But the album closer is called Tear It Down. And this is a really interesting subject because this is actually not this is not the original version of Tear It Down. This is actually a song that was recorded earlier in the 80s, and I think it was a B-side to a single, I want to say. I could be wrong about that, but they decided to re-record it for Adrenalize, and the original version was by no means great, but certainly sounded a lot better than the Adrenalize version. So you can probably hear it on YouTube. It's probably the only place you can be able to find it, I think. But it's really not bad, actually. So it's not a bad song, but it's ruined by the glossy production. So yeah, with a better production, a better sound, this could have been a much better album. It never would have been a great album, but it would have been far more tolerable. So yeah. 9th place was Adrenalize. All right, guys, 8th place. This is going to be a very controversial pick. This is one of my unsung heroes in the sense that it's an album that I do not think is good. However, most people put this one dead last, and I can kind of understand that. But while I don't think it's a great album, I do rank it higher than what most people would rank it, because I think there is some good stuff on here, and I think it does not quite deserve the level of hate that it gets. All right, here we go. Start typing in the comments section why I'm wrong. It's 1996's Slang, and what I respect about this one is I feel like they tried to do something different on this one. They had just had a glam overload on Adrenalize, and man, it was terrible in my opinion. And so I think they tried to adopt more of an alternative sound on this one. And again, it was released in the 90s, so alternative rock was very popular back then. So maybe they were just adapting to the times. Maybe they were just trying to bank off of what was popular, possibly. But at the same time, it was different, and for that, I respect it. Did it work out as well as they had probably hoped? Absolutely not. But I don't think it's as bad as some would have you believe. Where's the track list right there? Truth. Not a bad opener, okay? Again, it's more alternative, but it's heavy in comparison to some of their other stuff, so I'll take it. It's listenable, I'll say that. Turn to Dust is also a rocker. Not bad, but not great. Slang. This was the other song I was alluding to earlier. That starts out, it kind of sounds like it has sort of a rap intro. I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, but it certainly sounds like it. So yeah, the intro, the title track really it's kind of questionable. But after all that is done, it only lasts about 15, 20 seconds or so. After that, it does start to get kind of catchy. And so once again, that is really Def Leppard's strength, is that they are definitely catchy, which is something I will definitely give them. All I Want Is Everything is track 4. It's another ballad. It sucks. Work It Out is kind of flat, kind of boring actually. Same thing with Breathe a Sigh, another ballad. However, a track on here that no one talks about that I think definitely deserves another listen is Gift of Flesh. It is probably the heaviest song on here, okay? It is definitely the hardest song they wrote during this era, I guess. It is definitely the heaviest song from the 90s, I'll say that at least, okay? It's not bad, okay? It's still got some pretty decent songwriting, and I thought the sound was very decent on this one, so give it a shot. You've got nothing to lose except maybe 3 or 4 minutes of your life. Blood Runs Cold, that is track number 9, yes. It's another stupid ballad. No, thank you. And then Pearls of Euphoria is the very last song, and it's a rocker. It's, pretty upbeat. I like it. And I feel like it's an allusion to what they would conquer on their next album, because Euphoria was the one that came after this. So just to wrap up this one right here, if you don't like Slang, if you've heard it and you hate it, I totally understand. If you just heard, through the internet or through reviews that this album sucks and you never picked it up, I think you should pick it up because it is something different and it does deviate from their trademark sound. And quite frankly, I am not the biggest fan of their trademark sound, so it's worth a shot. Okay, we are now in 7th place, and this is one of those albums that I said earlier, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to count this one. Well, I did anyways, and it is 2006's Yeah. It is a covers album, okay? And that's basically where they're kind of paying tribute to some of the artists that were very influential to their career, and a lot of artists do this. Deep Purple's done it. Ozzy Osbourne's done it, Metallica did it very well, and of course Def Leppard did it. And I'm going to be also pretty honest on this as well. A lot of these songs I have not heard the original versions of. A lot of these songs are very much not my style of music. I think the covers that Def Leppard did were very decent. However, these artists just really aren't fully my cup of tea, so I'm not really going to compare too much to the original versions, because, well, I haven't heard them. But 20th Century Boy, I don't know who that was originally by. I know you're probably going to correct me, or educate me, I guess. It's pretty catchy, actually. It's a hard rocker, and it sounds good. It sounds like something I can listen to. I really like it. No idea what the original's like, and again, I don't know who the original artist was. Rock On. This one was played a lot live when I saw them, and actually I think they just dropped it a few years ago, but the first time I saw these guys was in 2007, and they played Rock On every time I saw them from 2007 to at least the late 2010s, and that's pretty impressive. This was always a chance for Rick Savage to kind of show off his skills, and he had a little bass solo before it. Because, the song does start off with a bass intro, and I really kind of like it, actually. It gets heavy towards the end, which I really love. It kind of builds upon itself, which I definitely like, okay? Another notable one on here is No Matter What, which is track number 11. This is a Badfinger cover, and I have actually heard the studio version, and it's catchy once again. It's got some decent punch to it, some decent guitar on it, and it does have kind of a pop undertone or overtone on it, which may not quite be, again, what I'm looking for, but I don't mind. It's not a bad cover. Don't Believe a Word is a Thin Lizzy cover, and just recently I have really started to appreciate Thin Lizzy, and it's a good cover. It's a good version of it. Of course, Thin Lizzy was better, but I do really like the Def Leppard version. But then we have Stay With Me, and Phil Collen, I think that's how you say his name, he actually sings this one, and he's not a bad vocalist, actually. He doesn't have that whiny sound to him that Joe Elliott does, so it is a refreshing change, I'll say that at least. And the song sounds kind of crazy, actually. It sounds almost psychedelic in a sense. Of course, it's not fully psychedelic, but it's definitely leaning towards that. I kind of like that, okay? Another one that I forgot to talk about is track 5, Hellraiser. I really like Hellraiser. It's another cover of The Sweet or Sweet, and Def Leppard did another cover of one of their songs on another album, which I'll get to next. But yeah, it's a really good cover. I think it's a good song as well, so yeah, check it out. Yeah. Well, I guess the cat's kind of out of the bag, so I just told you what 6th place is. And that is the other one that I wasn't quite sure if I'm supposed to count, but it is 1993's Retroactive. And Retroactive is actually a compilation of some outtakes. These are songs that could have ended up on one of their albums, probably either Hysteria or Adrenalize. But for whatever reason, they were left off, and they may become B-sides or just fallen through the cracks throughout time. And so they decided to compile them and put them on this album so that everybody could hear them. Okay, sounds good. But again, these first 2 songs, these are both outtakes from the Hysteria sessions. Desert Song and Fractured Love. Desert Song actually kind of sounds kind of heavy at the beginning. It's definitely very thunderous and very hard rock, and I really, really love that. Again, it's got that glam production on it, which is definitely a detriment. Fractured Love is a little bit slower and darker. I love it. But here we go. Action. I think this was a B-side to one of their singles, but this is another cover of The Sweet, or Sweet, however you say it. And just like before, it's a good cover. I love it. I alluded to this also in another episode. Raven also did a cover of Action, and of course, the Raven version I think was better, but when I first heard it, I was like, wait, that's Def Leppard, and I was like, oh, wait, no, it's not, it's a cover. So it's actually neither Raven nor Def Leppard, but yeah, good song right there. 2 Steps Behind, this was the acoustic version of a song that they did for the Last Action Heroes soundtrack, I want to say. And it's not that great of an acoustic number, but again, pretty catchy, I'll say that. They did play this one live a lot of times when I saw them, and they did play it acoustically. And it was one that I kind of took a rest on. Miss You in a Heartbeat is a piano ballad, not that great. I do like Only After Dark, but then we come was probably the best song on here, Ride Into the Sun. Now, Ride Into the Sun actually goes all the way back to their early days. It was actually on an EP that they did, actually in the 70s. I think it came out in 1979, and it's really good. It's pretty fast, and it's also very, very punching. And they re-recorded it. Of course, it has more kind of a glam appeal on it, more of a glammy sound on it, which does kind of go to the song's disadvantage. But again, it's a good rearrangement. They have kind of a piano intro at the beginning as well, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, Ride Into the Sun, great song. Maybe not the best version, but I'm glad we at least got something. Not too big of a fan of From the Inside, nor Ring of Fire, but yes, at the end we have yet another version of Miss You in a Heartbeat, and another version of 2 Steps Behind. This time it's the electric version. And you may or may not know this, but there's actually a hidden track on here, which is yet another version of Miss You in a Heartbeat. It is the piano version. Now, here's what I gotta say. I just said there was an EP that they released before their very first album came out. And it may have been underproduced, which is something that is really not one of Def Leppard's weaknesses these days. But back then it was. It was definitely underproduced, but it was a good EP, okay? And there's another song called Good Morning Freedom, which was a B-side to one of their very early singles back in the year 1980. And my question is this: why did we need 2 versions of Two Steps Behind and 3 versions of Miss You in a Heartbeat when Good Morning Freedom and that entire EP were left off? Seriously, take off 2 of the versions of Miss You in a Heartbeat, take off 1 of the versions of Two Steps Behind, maybe take off From the Inside, and give us those 4 tracks instead, because they're great, yet they're not on here. So that's me on my soapbox. All right, we're now in 5th place, and I think that this album, out of their really recent stuff, I think this is their best one. They tried to recapture the glory of their glory days, and I think this was their best attempt to do that. And that is Songs from the Sparkle Lounge from 2008. I started going to concerts right when this album came out, and Def Leppard was actually the second concert I ever went to. And so this was right when this album came out that I started seeing these guys live, and so I heard quite a lot about this album. Now, it's still very much like all the other ones. It still very much is a pop rock album, okay? But I don't think it goes as far as, let's say, Euphoria. I don't think it goes as far as, let's say, the self-titled album. I think that it has enough kick on this one. I think it has enough punch on it. And I think that these songs are very well written. Go is a pretty decent opener. I like it, okay? It's heavy by Def Leppard standards, and I at least gotta say that. 9 Lives is a collaboration song they did with Tim McGraw, of all people. I kind of wish they did not collaborate with Tim McGraw, but if they were going to, they definitely could have done worse. It still has those pop rock influences on it, but it's not bad. Come On, Come On, Come On, or just Come On, Come On. It's catchy. I like it, okay? It's definitely a rocker. I love it. Not too big of a fan of Love or Cruise Control, but I do like Hallucinate. Only the Good Die Young is pretty decent. I do love Bad Actress. Another very catchy song, okay? And then it closes with Gotta Let It Go. See, I told you they have a lot of songs about going for some reason. Yeah, good closer. Love it. So that is 5th place right there, Songs from the Sparkle Lounge. All right, guys, we are now in 4th place. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who rank this one number 1. If we are going by record sales only, this would be number 1. Well, it's not my number 1. 1987's Hysteria. Yeah. Out of the period of time, out of the albums that are not good, I would say this is the best one that it has to offer, if that makes any sense. They had been really moving in this direction for a while. Ever since their first album, they slowly stripped away the new wave of British heavy metal and moved closer and closer and closer to pop rock. And this is really where they fully embraced it, and man, I wish they had it. So yeah, the sound on this one is really... It's definitely very late 80s. Was this album very influential? You bet it was. Was it good? Some will say yes. I will say it's okay. Women, it's actually kind of a interesting choice for the leadoff track, because this one is not very upbeat, actually. It's actually kind of dark and kind of slow. Not really what you would expect, given the direction they want to go in, but it is one of the better songs on here. Then we have Rocket, which they played every single time I saw them live, okay? This one is 6 minutes and 34 seconds. There is an edited version out there that I think is a lot better, but it's catchy, okay? That's all I can really say about it. It's catchy. It's definitely kind of an odd track, but I do find myself grooving along with it, and I really actually don't mind Rocket. Great song? No. Is it an overly polished pop rock song? Absolutely. But is it well written? There's an argument to be made that it is. Then we have Animal, and apparently it took the band multiple years to fully get this song correct, to fully get all the arrangements together in a configuration they were satisfied with. Comes on the radio non-stop. Oh my God. So sick of hearing it. But I will say this. Before I heard it for the 500 billionth time, I thought it was catchy. Much like Heaven Is, it was a song that I could kind of, sing along with and groove along with, and it did kind of make me happy, I'll say that. Not so much anymore, but again, there was a time that I liked it. Love Bites is a ballad, and of course it's a pop rock ballad. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. They can be good if they get the emotional punch correct. I don't think Love Bites really did that, okay? The verses seem to really be building up to something, and then by the time you get to the big explosive chorus, or what is supposed to be the big explosive chorus, it just doesn't happen, and I think it's a little bit awkward, to tell you the truth. I have some friends who just love Bites, but for me, I will stick with the song by Judas Priest that is also called Love Bites. All right, guys, here we go. We have the most annoying song on the face of the planet. Pour Some Sugar on Me. No, thank you. I cannot stand that song, okay? It, again, is a pop rock overload. I don't think it's well written. I don't even think it's catchy. I think it's annoying. People need to get over that song. There are far more better songs out there. But Armageddon It is not bad. I'll say that, okay? Again, great song. I wouldn't go that far, but it's catchy, and catchy really goes a long way. Now, Gods of War. This is a deep cut that a lot of people keep saying, oh, you need to listen to Gods of War. It's such a great song. It doesn't get the recognition it deserves. Ugh. I really don't think it's that good. No, sorry. Don't Shoot Shotgun is kind of silly. Not bad. So is Run Riot. But then we have the title track, Hysteria. This is another one that comes on the radio religiously. It's a ballad. I don't think I really like this one. Nope. It never really quite gets off the ground, in my opinion. Nope. Excitable is a pretty sleazy rocker. Decent. And Love and Affection, I'm not too big of a fan of. So, yeah, that was Hysteria. Pop rock sellout? Absolutely. Bad album? One could make the argument, I'll say that. But I'll also say this. You could do a lot worse than this. Absolutely. So now we're in the top three. And I would say going forward, I do legitimately love all three albums that are about to come next. And the third place is going to be the one that came before it, and that was 1983's Pyromania. And to me, this is really a bridge album. It's kind of bridging the gap between the new wave of British heavy metal and the pop glam rock that they would later embrace. This was the very first Def Leppard album I ever heard, so this was really my stepping stone and my gateway into Def Leppard. And starts off with Rock Rock Till You Drop. It's got a keyboard intro, which may sound like a turn-off to some people, but I think they pull it off pretty nicely, actually, okay? It really sets the stage, and it's not really, upbeat or anything. It's kind of dark, actually. And then after a little bit, after that keyboard intro, the guitar comes in. It's kind of going slow for a bit, but then it just hits you over the hammer and starts going really fast. And man, this song is catchy. It's heavy. I love it. Anything goes. You gotta rock till you drop. Silly song, absolutely, but I love it. Then we have Photograph. And of course, this would have been the second Def Leppard song I ever heard. The second Def Leppard song that I heard that I knew was Def Leppard. And I was like, wow, this song is famous. This comes on the radio a lot. I recognize this. And yeah, it's a great song, okay? It's a little bit slower, but I wouldn't really quite call it a ballad, but it definitely is trying to elicit an emotional response out of the listener. But yeah, it's very catchy once again, and man, that chorus is just iconic. Stage Fright, song that has definitely fallen through the cracks. You need to hear it, man. The deep cuts by Def Leppard are great, okay? It's a pretty fast rocker. It's very up-tempo. It's very upbeat. And man, it's fast and it's heavy. Love it. Too Late for Love is probably the closest this album comes to a ballad, and that's fine. Probably trying to bank off the success of something that came before it, which I'll talk about in a second. Not quite my favorite from at least the first half of Pyromania, but it's pretty good. But Die Hard the Hunter. That may very well be my favorite song from this album. It's, again, one that has not really quite gotten a lot of recognition. Starts off very soft, very melodic, but then they just hit you over the head with the hammer after that intro, and it gets fast, it gets aggressive, it gets heavy, and man, I love Die Hard the Hunter. Also very catchy and very well written. Foolin' is probably the other song on here that kind of teeters on the definition of a ballad. Wouldn't quite say it is, but, you know, it's, again, catchy. I like it. Rock of Ages, another very famous song, especially that intro. He's got, I don't know what this guy sang at the beginning. Sounds like, Udadina Lagen Lowen. I probably said that incorrectly, but it's all right. But it's weird to say the least. But yeah, it's another rocker, but I really love it. It's also very catchy, very well written. Coming Under Fire and Action Not Words are probably the two most disposable songs on here, but it closes out very, very well with Billy's Got a Gun. Very slow song, very brooding, but man, I love it. So yeah, Pyromania, great album, okay? Most of you have probably heard it. It's one of the most famous ones, so if you haven't for whatever reason, you should listen to it. All right, second place. This is going to be an album that I have reviewed before on Album Rant. I promise not to sing the title track, but that is the one that came before it, 1981's High and Dry. This is a very heavy album. It really is, okay? It's, again, their second album, and it starts off with a very fast and heavy intro, Let It Go. One of my all-time favorite Def Leppard tracks. They have played this a few times. I have heard them in concert, and they do still play a lot of stuff from this album live, and I'm really glad they have not abandoned it, because Let It Go is a really great opener. Very fast, very aggressive, and again, they would take other iterations of that title and write other songs based around it. Another hit and run, another fast, heavy rocker. Very catchy once again. High and Dry, Saturday Night, is kind of a bluesy number, and that's not a bad thing at all, and it definitely serves its purpose, and it's definitely one of their most famous songs ever. I actually saw a poll by VH1 once, and it was ranked one of the top metal songs of all time, which I think is very, very impressive. But yeah, again, kind of a sleazy, bluesy song, but still really great. Bringing On the Heartbreak is probably their very first ballad ever, if you consider some of their previous stuff a ballad, which you probably don't. This is another big radio hit. It's great, okay? Maybe a little bit soft. It was definitely a different direction for Def Leppard at the time, but it's very well written once again. But then it segues into Switch 625. And I've talked about this instrumental many times on this channel, and it is definitely my favorite song from High and Dry. It won the song tournament for Def Leppard, so based off the songs I had to choose from, I did pick this one as the best song. It's great. They also always played this one when I saw them live, and man, I was going nuts during it. Unfortunately, the album is kind of front-loaded, but it's not to say the rest is bad or anything. But You Got Me Running, Lady Strange, and On Through the Night are probably some of the weaker songs on here, but Mirror, Mirror, Look Into My Eyes actually should be Magic Mirror. Yeah, it should. But yeah, it's a very dark, very gloomy song, but it's also heavy. And it closes out very well with No, 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 another fast, up-tempo rocker. Love it. But there is one album out there that I like a little bit better, and you've probably guessed it by now. It is going to be 1980's On Through the Night. I was obsessed with this album the very first time I picked it up. I loved everything about it. This was a full-on, full-fledged new wave of British heavy metal album, much along the lines of Iron Maiden and Samson and Saxon. And for the life of me, I cannot believe I am mentioning those artists in the same sentence as Def Leppard, but there was a time when it made sense. Rock Brigade, great. Hello America, kind of like the Beach Boys meet heavy metal. Interesting combination, but it works. Sorrow is a Woman, I'm not sure if you would call that a ballad, I probably don't, but it has a very soft intro, and actually the verses are kind of soft actually, they're acoustic based. So I think that's why some people may consider it a ballad, I personally don't, but man, when it picks up, it picks up. It Could Be You, kind of crazy, okay, very, slick, fast number, love it. Satellite is kind of disposable, but man, when the walls came tumbling down, they are bordering on prog metal there. I am not joking. It feels very epic in scope. I love when the walls came tumbling down. Wasted, very sleazy number. Very hard rocking as well. I love Wasted. Same thing with Rock Soft. It Don't Matter, an answer to the master. But really, guys, the big epic closer, Overture, was actually a song that was on that initial EP they reworked for this album. Very great closer, very epic in scope, and very, very heavy. On Through the Night is what I wish the band had stuck with, and it's the album that I am always going to pick if I have a choice over which one I listen to. I don't think there's a single weak spot on Through the Night, and that is going to conclude my Def Leppard album ranking. So, let's go ahead and recap real quickly. Number 1, On Through the Night. 2, High and Dry. 3, Pyromania. 4, Hysteria. 5, Songs from the Sparkle Lounge. 6, Retroactive. 7, Yeah. 8, Slang. 9, Adrenalize. 10, Diamond Star Halos. 11, the self-titled album. 12, Euphoria. 13, X. So anyways, thank you all for joining me tonight on this album ranking video. Next time, I'm going to look at an album that was released in the year 1984. But until then, have a very pleasant